because they get so restrictive with things. And I find that when I do phone consultations with people, they're trying to find a zero sodium diet, or they're trying to find a low protein diet, or, you know, some sort of craziness because the cardiologist mentioned something. And unfortunately, the cardiologists aren't always as well versed in the nutrition side as they need to be. It was written by a cardiologist who, she is a diplomat in the American College of Veterinary Internal Medicine in cardiology, and she's a professor at one of the universities. So for stage A and stage B1 dogs with heart disease, no intervention is recommended, although I do recommend 2 dogs. She is saying the following dietary interventions are recommended: mild sodium restriction. Generally, this means staying in the range of approximately 80 to 99 milligrams of sodium per 100 calories, including treats and snacks. It is important not to over-restrict dietary sodium at this stage in order to avoid excessive activation of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which is basically water balance and electrolyte balance in the body that's tied closely heart to kidneys. And this is where I find that a lot of people come back from their first cardiology visit because their dog had a murmur, and their dog is only in B2 and they're told to restrict sodium, and people go crazy trying to have a zero sodium diet. And you don't want to do that. Sodium is very, very important. If you overly restrict, you could send them into kidney failure way early. So we have to be very careful with this. Clinicians should be aware that some sodium-restricted diets are also protein-restricted, and they should be avoided due to the bad effects of protein restriction on muscle condition. When we start restricting protein, these animals are going to lose muscle because they're going to break down the protein that's in their muscles to utilize. So we want to be careful not to start getting very restrictive in these early stages. For stage C dogs, she says moderate sodium restriction, target range of approximately 50 to 79 milligrams of sodium per 100 calories, including treats and snacks. And be very aware that anything that is shelf stable for long periods of time is going to be much higher in sodium. But if you're using freeze-dried meats or you're making your own food, you're actually going to have to add salt to the diet to keep it at the level where it needs to be. You don't want to over-restrict. Okay, so for stage C dogs, they're saying that maintain adequate caloric intake and ensure adequate protein intake. Again, don't restrict protein in these dogs because you're going to run into problems. They need that meat-based diet. And then maybe we'll be a little more restrictive with sodium, but I wouldn't even go crazy there. Again, as long as you're natural sodium in everything that we eat. I mean, there's natural sodium, and you could certainly go to food charts just if you want to. If you're a metal personality and you want to get really crazy about it, you can go look up the amount of sodium in every single thing that you're putting in that diet. But I do recommend adding a little bit of salt. So if you're making the pup loaf recipe with a pound of meat plus all the other stuff, you're making a couple of pounds of food, and putting a half a teaspoon of salt in there is not a bad thing at all. For some dogs, you might even need to go a little bit higher, but they definitely need some sodium added in there. Okay. So that's that. Actually, somebody I pretty much agree with. Yay. Somebody who's on the traditional side. It happens occasionally. Use Himalaya salt because regular table salt's bleached. Yeah, whatever you use. I mean, we use sea salt or Himalayan salt. Yeah. We've got probably 10 different kinds of salt in our cabinet.
But a lot of people just use
table salt. If that's what you have, that's what you have. Okay. Give me some music, honey.